For decades, France controlled West Africa's security. Now that's changing fast. Guinea-Bissau's military infrastructure isn't just tactical. It's a declaration of independence. Roads, bridges, logistics hubs. Each one strengthens a coalition led by Ibrahim Traoré that's deliberately dismantling Western security frameworks. But here's what most analysts miss. This isn't about sovereignty alone. It's about who controls the Sahel's future and whether a military-led regional power can hold together without collapsing into conflict. The stakes are massive. Great power competition, mineral access, and African autonomy itself. What happens next will reshape the continent. Watch closely. This is the moment everything shifts. Guinea-Bissau's military infrastructure development represents a consequential shift in Sahel security architecture, signaling the emergence of a coordinated, autonomous regional security model that directly challenges the post-colonial security paradigm dominated by Western military presence and multilateral peacekeeping operations. This development is not merely tactical in nature. It reflects a deliberate strategic reorientation by a coalition of West African states, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad, toward operational self-sufficiency and regional command autonomy. The implications extend beyond Guinea-Bissau's borders, potentially reshaping alliance structures, territorial control mechanisms, and the balance of power across one of the world's most volatile regions. Understanding this shift requires examining both the immediate drivers of Guinea-Bissau's buildup and the broader geopolitical context in which it unfolds, including the competing interests of external powers, the durability of the regional coalition supporting it, and the inherent risks embedded in rapid militarization absent robust institutional oversight. The most strategically significant aspect of Guinea-Bissau's posture is not the military hardware itself, but rather the underlying assertion of sovereignty through infrastructure control. By constructing roads, bridges, logistics networks, and secured operational zones, Guinea-Bissau and its partners are essentially declaring that they possess the operational capacity to manage their own territory without dependence on externally managed systems. This represents a direct challenge to the architecture established under French military hegemony in West Africa and reinforced through United Nations multidisciplinary integrated stabilization mission in Mali, MINUSMA, and parallel peacekeeping frameworks. For decades, France maintained security dominance in the region through Operation Barkhane and its network of forward operating bases, while international peacekeeping missions provided legitimacy and logistical support under UN mandates. Guinea-Bissau's infrastructure strategy signals that this era is concluding, at least for the states committed to the regional realignment. The immediate context: why Guinea-Bissau matters. Guinea-Bissau occupies a strategically critical position at the western edge of the Sahel, serving as a potential bridge between maritime West Africa and the landlocked interior states that have become the epicenter of regional instability. Historically, Guinea-Bissau has been peripheral to Sahel security dynamics, a fragile state with limited military capacity, vulnerable to transnational criminal networks, and heavily dependent on international support. However, its geographical position, relative stability compared to Mali and Burkina Faso, and its existing relationship with Ibrahim Traoré's military leadership in Burkina Faso have elevated its strategic utility for a coalition seeking to establish an autonomous operational sphere. The timing of Guinea-Bissau's military buildup is directly correlated with the collapse of France's security framework in the Sahel. Operation Barkhane's withdrawal in 2022, accelerated by the military coups and subsequent anti-French sentiment across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, created an operational vacuum that regional actors immediately moved to fill. Where France once served as the primary security guarantor and de facto enforcer of regional power dynamics, multiple states, particularly those aligned with military governments, have now seized the opportunity to construct indigenous alternatives. Guinea-Bissau's buildup is part of this broader realignment, but it is also a calculated response by Traoré and his allies to establish a logistics and coordination hub that can support sustained military operations across the Sahel without external dependence. The infrastructure investments described, roads, bridges, logistics networks, and cleared operational zones, are not incidental to military effectiveness. They are foundational. In semi-arid, resource-constrained environments like the Sahel, the ability to move supplies, personnel, and equipment rapidly determines operational tempo and sustainability. By investing in these infrastructure elements, Guinea-Bissau is signaling that it intends to support sustained military campaigns across the region, whether directed against militant groups, rival state actors, or external powers perceived as threatening. The construction of logistics networks is particularly significant because it enables coordinated operations with Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad, suggesting a level of military-to-military cooperation that goes beyond ad hoc coordination and implies institutionalized operational planning. The coalition anchored by Traoré's Burkina Faso has demonstrated remarkable cohesion over the past 18 months, despite historical tensions and competing national interests. This coherence is notable because Sahel states have traditionally struggled to maintain multilateral security frameworks, fragmented by ethnic politics, resource competition, and the historical legacies of colonially imposed borders. The current coalition's durability rests on several factors. Shared military governance structures. Coups have unified leadership across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Common external threat perception, particularly toward France and Western military presence. Ideological alignment around anti-colonial sovereignty narratives. And practical mutual interest in expanding operational control against militant groups and transnational criminal networks. Guinea-Bissau's integration into this coalition signals that the group is attempting to establish a geographically broader operational footprint. By extending infrastructure and military coordination into Guinea-Bissau, a state with Atlantic access and relative geographic separation from the most intense conflict zones, the coalition gains strategic depth and logistical flexibility. Guinea-Bissau could serve multiple functions: as a secure logistics hub for operations further east, as a potential staging ground for naval or maritime operations, and as a buffer zone protecting the coalition's western flank from external pressure or intervention. This geographic expansion also suggests that the coalition is thinking beyond immediate counterinsurgency and toward longer-term regional power consolidation. However, the sustainability of this coalition remains a critical analytical question. While military governments share governance structures, they do not share identical interests. Mali and Burkina Faso have been locked in resource competition for decades. Niger's geopolitical orientation has historically been more centrist. Chad is geographically distant and strategically focused on its own security challenges. The cohesion currently evident may reflect temporary alignment against common external pressures rather than durable institutional integration. Historical precedent suggests that regional military alliances in Africa often fragment when external pressure diminishes or when internal resource competition intensifies. Policymakers must consider whether the current coalition represents a genuine structural realignment or a temporary tactical arrangement vulnerable to dissolution if circumstances shift. The most immediate implications of Guinea-Bissau's military buildup concern the future of Western military presence and influence in West Africa. France's withdrawal from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger has already dealt a severe blow to French strategic interests in the region. The emergence of an autonomous regional security model that explicitly rejects Western frameworks and bases suggests that France's influence will continue to contract, potentially extending to other Sahel states that may eventually shift away from Western security partnerships. Guinea-Bissau's buildup, if successful, could serve as a proof of concept that African states can establish credible autonomous defense capabilities without Western support, thereby accelerating the diplomatic isolation of France and potentially the United States in the region. The United States has maintained a more limited military footprint in West Africa compared to France, but American interests in counterterrorism, strategic mineral access, and great power competition remain significant. Guinea-Bissau's military expansion and explicit alignment with Traoré's coalition could constrain American operational flexibility in the region and complicate efforts to maintain partnerships with any states that eventually join the regional coalition. The broader implication is that Western security frameworks in Africa, based on basing agreements, military aid, and joint operations planning, are becoming less viable in regions where anti-colonial sovereignty narratives have gained traction and where military governments have consolidated power. Sovereignty, autonomy, and the problem of accountability. Guinea-Bissau's emphasis on operational autonomy and self-reliance aligns with broader African sovereignty narratives that have gained political momentum across the continent, particularly among younger, military-aligned leadership. The argument that African states should control their own security apparatus and not depend on external powers is rhetorically powerful and resonates with legitimate historical grievances regarding colonialism and neo-colonial dependency. However, this autonomy agenda masks several practical and ethical challenges that policymakers must confront directly. First, operational autonomy, without institutional oversight mechanisms, creates conditions for human rights violations and accountability deficits. Militaries operating independently, without external monitoring or institutional checks, have historically committed abuses against civilian populations. In conflict zones like the Sahel, where militant groups deliberately embed within civilian populations, and where counterinsurgency operations often rely on collective punishment strategies, independent military command structures dramatically increase the risk of civilian casualties. Guinea-Bissau's buildup, if connected to sustained military operations across the Sahel, will almost certainly result in civilian harm. The absence of external accountability mechanisms, whether through multilateral peacekeeping operations, human rights monitoring, or third-party oversight, means these harms will likely go undocumented and unaddressed. Second, the infrastructure investments described, roads, bridges, logistics networks, will require sustained resource expenditure. Guinea-Bissau is not a wealthy state. It has limited domestic revenues and significant poverty. The capital required for these investments likely comes from external sources, including potentially illicit revenue streams from resource extraction, transnational smuggling networks, or support from external state actors seeking to extend their influence. This creates the paradoxical situation where autonomy from Western frameworks may simultaneously represent dependency on alternative external patrons with their own strategic agendas. Tracing the actual funding sources for Guinea-Bissau's military expansion would be analytically essential. Without this information, claims regarding genuine autonomy remain unverified. Third, the regional coalition's assertion of autonomous security authority is occurring in a context where institutional capacity remains severely limited. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad all rank among the lowest in global governance and institutional capacity indices. Military governments, by definition, have not established democratic civilian oversight mechanisms. The operational autonomy these states are claiming is occurring precisely in environments where accountability structures are weakest. History suggests that this combination, weak institutions plus unchecked military authority plus resource constraints, typically leads to military overreach, regional conflict escalation, and authoritarian entrenchment. Guinea-Bissau's military buildup carries several concrete operational risks that require assessment. First, the expansion of military infrastructure and the assertion of control over cleared operational zones may provoke conflict with non-state actors, including militant groups that have historically operated across West African borders. If Guinea-Bissau's military becomes more capable and more assertive, it will likely engage in active counterinsurgency operations, which could drive militant groups to escalate violence or shift their operations to neighboring states. The regional coalition's capacity to coordinate operations across borders is presented as an advantage, but it also increases the risk of cross-border military action that could destabilize fragile neighboring states like Sierra Leone, Liberia, or even Guinea proper. Second, the restriction of airspace and the establishment of secured corridors described in the input represent claims of sovereignty that may conflict with international law and existing aviation agreements. If Guinea-Bissau unilaterally restricts airspace access or controls transit corridors, it could provoke diplomatic tensions with neighboring states, regional organizations like the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, or international aviation authorities. This is particularly significant because Guinea-Bissau's maritime and airspace claims could affect regional trade and transportation routes that multiple states depend upon. Third, The military buildup creates the conditions for an arms race dynamic among West African states. If Guinea-Bissau and the Traoré-aligned coalition are visibly strengthening their military capabilities, competing states, including Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, or Ghana, may feel compelled to expand their own military spending and capabilities in response. This escalatory dynamic, absent conflict resolution mechanisms or regional security agreements, increases the baseline risk of interstate conflict and diverts resources from economic development and social services. Guinea-Bissau's military buildup must be understood as one element in a much larger strategic realignment unfolding across West Africa and the broader Sahel. The withdrawal of France and the consolidation of military governments across multiple states have created space for alternative strategic partnerships, most notably with Russia, Turkey, and various non-Western powers. Russia has already established military relationships with Mali, Burkina Faso, and potentially Niger through the Wagner Group and formal defense agreements. Turkey has cultivated relationships across the region through military sales and training. China has positioned itself as a strategic partner to multiple African states through economic investment and security cooperation. Guinea-Bissau's infrastructure development may be partially enabled by support from these alternative partners. Understanding the actual source of financial and technical support for Guinea-Bissau's military expansion would clarify the degree to which this represents genuine African autonomy versus a shift in external patron relationships. The current framing that regional powers are asserting autonomous control may obscure the reality that these states are shifting from Western security dependency to non-Western security dependency, which is a different strategic outcome than genuine autonomy. The emergence of Russia as a security actor in the Sahel is particularly consequential. Russian military support to Mali and potential support to other coalition members introduces an external actor with geopolitical interests that diverge significantly from Western interests and from the stated agenda of regional peace and stability. Russia's engagement in the region appears focused on geopolitical positioning, resource access, and competition with Western powers rather than on solving the actual security challenges of the Sahel. This creates a situation where regional actors may prioritize alignment with Russia over effective counterinsurgency, and where external power competition may intensify internal conflicts. Guinea-Bissau's military expansion occurs in a context of significant economic constraint and resource limitation. The state's economy is primarily based on cashew production and fishing. It has limited mineral wealth compared to other regional states. The capital required to establish the infrastructure described, roads, bridges, logistics networks, and maintained military capabilities, likely exceeds Guinea-Bissau's domestic revenue generation capacity. This creates a sustainability question. How long can Guinea-Bissau maintain this military expansion without external support or without shifting resources away from essential civilian services? More critically, the infrastructure investments may be designed to facilitate extraction of resources or taxation of trade routes. If roads and logistics networks are being developed primarily to support military operations or regional coalition activities, the return on investment for Guinea-Bissau itself may be limited. However, if these infrastructure projects are being designed to facilitate commercial activity, resource extraction, or taxation of regional trade, then they represent a different kind of strategic calculation, one focused on economic leverage and territorial control rather than purely military capability. Determining which of these motivations is primary would require on-the-ground investigation beyond the scope of available information. The regional coalition's capacity to control trade routes and extract resources from regional commerce is also relevant here. If Guinea-Bissau's military infrastructure gives the coalition greater ability to tax or control commercial activity across West Africa, this could have significant economic implications for neighboring states and potentially shift regional trade patterns. This could include illicit resource extraction, control over smuggling routes, or simply the ability to extract revenue from legitimate commerce passing through coalition-controlled territory. Institutional and governance implications. The military buildup in Guinea-Bissau and its integration into the Traoré-led coalition raises significant questions about the trajectory of governance in West Africa more broadly. Military governments are inherently less institutionally constrained than civilian governments. They concentrate power in leadership structures with minimal checks and balances. The expansion of military capability and infrastructure typically correlates with military entrenchment and the increasingly difficulty of returning to civilian governance. If Guinea-Bissau's military buildup is part of a longer-term consolidation of military power, this represents a concerning trend for democratic governance across the region. The specific governance implications include the potential for militarization of civilian institutions, the prioritization of military spending over social services and economic development, and the increasing role of security apparatus in political decision-making. Guinea-Bissau already ranks among the lowest in democratic governance metrics. Further militarization will almost certainly worsen governance indicators and reduce civilian oversight of state power. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where military authority increases, civilian institutions weaken, and the state becomes increasingly dependent on military coercion to maintain control. The most important analytical question is whether Guinea-Bissau's military buildup represents a sustained strategic commitment or a temporary mobilization that will prove unsustainable over time. Military infrastructure investments typically require years to complete and decades to realize full operational benefit. If the coalition's commitment to supporting Guinea-Bissau's expansion is genuine and sustained, we should expect to see continued investment over multiple years, training of personnel, and gradual expansion of operational capabilities. Conversely, if external support diminishes or coalition solidarity fractures, these infrastructure projects may be abandoned, leaving Guinea-Bissau with stranded capital investments and overextended military commitments. The trajectory will be significantly influenced by security developments across the Sahel. If militant groups continue to gain strength and the security situation deteriorates despite the coalition's military expansion, this could either trigger further military escalation or force recognition that military solutions alone are insufficient. If security conditions stabilize or improve, this could be interpreted as validation of the autonomous regional approach, potentially accelerating similar efforts by other states. The next 12 to 24 months will be critical for determining whether the current coalition and infrastructure investment represent a sustainable realignment or a temporary spike in militarization that will eventually recede. Guinea-Bissau's military buildup represents a significant geopolitical development with implications that extend far beyond the state itself. At the most fundamental level, it signals the emergence of an alternative security model in West Africa, one based on regional autonomous action rather than Western-led frameworks and UN peacekeeping. This model has genuine appeal to military governments seeking to consolidate power and to populations skeptical of Western intervention. However, it carries substantial risks, including accountability deficits, potential for military overreach, sustainability challenges, and vulnerability to external actor interference through alternative patron relationships. The coalition anchored by Traoré's Burkina Faso has demonstrated surprising cohesion, but this cohesion rests on fragile foundations, shared opposition to external actors rather than durable institutional integration. The expansion of infrastructure and military capability creates both opportunities for regional stability through enhanced counterinsurgency capability and risks for destabilization through potential military escalation and arms competition. The ultimate trajectory will depend on whether the coalition can develop institutional mechanisms for conflict resolution and whether external actors can be prevented from exploiting internal coalition tensions. Policymakers must recognize that the Western security model in West Africa has fundamentally shifted. The era of French military hegemony and UN peacekeeping centrality is ending. What replaces it will be determined by the sustainability of regional coalition efforts, the success or failure of autonomous security strategies, and the degree to which external actors can position themselves as viable alternatives to Western partnerships. Guinea-Bissau's military buildup is one indicator among many that this transition is accelerating. The stakes for regional stability, democratic governance, and great power competition are substantial, and the outcomes remain uncertain. Strategic attention to these developments and sustained analysis of the coalition's trajectory will be essential for understanding African geopolitical evolution over the coming decade.